Hello!
Hey, what's going on, y'all? I'm Pete. It's
I'm
Fantasy
Jeremy.
Labs. I did it wrong. I should
Yeah.
say it's Fantasy Labs, and I say I'm Pete. I got confundled. How's it going, Jeremy?
Confundled. I'm not feeling top notch, Pete, frankly, Pete, but I'm gonna make it through tonight.
Feeling a little under the weather today. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Jeremy.
just a smidge. You see, I ate some. I've been having some problems with certain types of food. I'm pretty sure it's a gluten intolerance, but I'm not 100%. And I rolled the dice with chicken fingers, and the breadcrumbs on it are like, I don't know, and it looks like I rolled poorly.
That is a sad state, but
Well, it could be worse, you know.
I mean, yeah, you could have. I mean, you rolled maybe like a 4, but you could have rolled a 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Also, hello everyone in chat. Hello Blood Deuce and Halo Dude and Cold Spark and Crimson Pelt and Max Meister. And you've forgotten one and everybody hanging out, even if you are hiding in the shadows.
I was gonna say, Jeremy, how
guys.
did you see Crimson Pelt there amongst the shadows?
I've got dark vision.
Ah, okay. I see.
I failed my Constitution
ones,
saving throw against chicken finger.
D Forgotten One's hanging out as well. I'm glad that you're here, Frog, because we're doing your Lich's Lair in a little while. We have a fun docket lined up for all of y'all today.
I was gonna say, and talking about being here, Pete, you're here.
I'm here.
Your internet's functioning today-ish.
I'm functioning at least on a physical level, as you can tell by the that initial stumble. Maybe my psyche is not as in good a shape as I thought, but here we are. We have internet today. For anyone who was here on Friday and we had to cancel, unfortunately, I'm online now. Sorry about the mix-up there, the issues there. I think that will be good for the show.
Working on getting that fixed.
Yes, working on getting that fixed. It'll be good for next week, hopefully. But I think we'll also be good for tonight, but we'll see. Yeah.
Pete, I was going to say, speaking about being here, we've got something new to talk about today, something that we haven't spoken about before down in the corner over here.
Yes,
our Monster Mash.
We've had this ominous shadow down in the bottom left for some time now. I think it's been like 3 weeks now, maybe 2 weeks. Something like that. It has. It's been looming, and this is a cool new bot that you have set up for the stream, Jeremy. And I know that Monster Mash is kind of your brainchild. Would you like to explain it, Jeremy?
Yeah, so Monster Mash is a kind of, whenever you see any like real Twitch stream, they always have like goals and be like donation goal or subscriber goal or whatever. And that is a way that like the streamer can set tangible targets that once those are hit, they can give back to the community in some way. That's like, usually it's like, a Jackbox night or some sort of fun activity. And so we're trying out this Monster Mash thing. Where we've got a 25 follower goal, a nice easy follower goal. We're not doing anything too crazy. And once we hit that, we're going to do a Monster Mash, which is going to be an interesting kind of like monster design segment. It'll be a special segment here on the Fantasy Labs show where we are going to create a monster that is the natural predator of another monster that already exists. So you guys can be like, let's create the natural predator of the Terrask. Well, please don't do the Terrask first, because God, CR30.
We don't want to have to make a CR31.
Yeah.
Realistically, we'd end up making, I feel like, a CR0 parasite that's very good against Terrask specifically.
It'd be exactly. It'd be the rot grub.
Yeah, the rot grub is precisely what I was thinking of. But Jeremy, I think your first thought for it was the Mind Flare, which is why you kind of picked the Mind Flare originally. But we're going to do that by kind of a community. I'm not sure if we're going to do a formal or an informal poll on that when it happens. But when it does, we'll take an extra little chunk on the stream and build out a monster with everyone. So it'll be fun, and so this is a great time if you know people to introduce to D&D time. If you want to push that number up, then, or if you haven't followed yet, also follow now, and we'll start making our way to that first Monster Mash.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we see this as a really fun kind of design concept for making monsters, because if you just make a monster in a vacuum, a lot of the time it's like, well, where am I going to use this? When you create a monster with a purpose, like in this case, right, the predator of another monster, you immediately have an automatic in on how to use it in your campaign. Just introduce it when the other monster shows up. Then it's just, oh no. You thought it was scary that a lich was after you. Well,
it's Star Wars Episode 1. There's always a bigger fish.
Bigger fish.
You can Qui-Gon it. So I think it'll be a lot of fun as well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to when we do it. But I believe also the followers for that, Jeremy, it's for people that follow during Fantasy Labs, correct?
I believe so. I'm not positive how it works yet, but we're going to make our way there. I want to just quickly shout out, thank you so much, Crimson Pelt, for the subscription with the old Twitch Prime. 7 months of support. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Crimson.
We very much appreciate it. But Pete,
yeah,
do you want to move on to like the actual show today? We got a lot of really cool stuff on the docket.
We have a busy schedule today. We're going to be going over the stuff that you guys submitted into the workshop, as well as the completed work section. We have a Lich's Lair today, which is where we do a very in-depth review of a piece of content created by a member of our community or by myself or Jeremy. Today we're going to be looking at The Path of the Frolicking Fae by D Forgotten One, which was something that Frog created during our challenge last week, which was a lot of fun. Check that out if you have not seen that. You can go back and watch some of the VODs on those. But we didn't get a chance to talk about it on the stream, so we're going to do a Lich's Lair with it today. And that should be a lot of fun. There's a new Unearthed Arcana that contains a bunch of new feats for 5e that I'm excited to talk about. And then, depending on, see where the evening takes us. If we have time, we have a couple of cool things from Reddit to look at too. So we'll see where the night leads. But we're starting off with some community content, Jeremy. And as we're talking about all of this, we're going to be talking about our rubric.
Absolutely. So this is our simple Fantasy Labs rubric. We don't really dive too deep into this for our kind of generic hangout kind of content in our Discord, but you can join and share your stuff by going to our website, dndtime.stream and hitting the little Discord button at the top. But yeah, this is our kind of way we look at content for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, both homebrew and official. We look at it on a 5-point scale, and those points are space. Is there room for this? Does it already exist in some way in 5th edition D&D? Balance, is it balanced? Pretty straightforward. Playability, would it disrupt the flow of gameplay or be frustrating for anyone at the table, dungeon master or player, to play or to play with? Design, is the design elegant? Is it easy to understand and easy to play? And flavor, does it excite you, right? Is it something that you read and you say, holy shit, I want that? If it doesn't do that, I think we always say that it's 5 points and they're evenly weighted, but let's be real, Pete. I think flavor is the most important point.
Yes.
Yeah,
yeah, it is. I was going to say, like, they are all very important.
They're all important.
And you can't... They're all essential, even. You can't have a good homebrew without all of them, but flavor's the one that it's got to be there. It's got to be extra in flavor.
Indeed. Also, welcome, Dragon's Rise. It's good. Your bad sleeping pattern finally pays off. It's always good when you get that silver lining to everything. And hello as well to you, Sword. Pete, we want to dive into the community content?
Yeah, I would love to look at what everyone had to submit this week. So let's see. We have a couple of submissions from Frog here, which are, first we have the Eldritch Sniper Rifle. This was a rod which I believe is intended mostly for warlocks because it interacts directly with the Eldritch Blast, but I suppose anyone that has Eldritch Blast could use it. Very rare item. This rod, made of otherworldly material, has a peculiar shape, but the power that courses through your body while you hold it is something beyond compare. This rod grants a +3 bonus to spell attack and damage rolls. While attuned to this rod, you double the range of Eldritch Blast and can fire an additional beam regardless of your level. Additionally, you have advantage on attack rolls to hit target creatures within range of Eldritch Blast, and disadvantage to attack rolls to half the range of your Eldritch Blast feat beyond that. So this is just a very potent buff up your Eldritch Blast, and I think you're kind of playing on the gun, playing on the kind of the gun features of it. But one thing I just wanted to recommend, I remember reading this, and I thought, like, for this specifically, you're very much invoking, I feel like, range, much like a longbow or a short bow or any ranged weapon in 5e would have with some of the design here. But since spells don't usually work in that terms, I just had a quick recommendation on this one, which would just to say you have advantage on attacks made at a range of 120 feet, which is the normal range of Eldritch Blast, and disadvantage on attacks made within. It sounds like it was a little unclear what the radius was meant to be on that second path. The disadvantage on half the range of your Eldritch Blast feet beyond that. So I wasn't sure if you had disadvantage from 180 to 240 or from 120 to 240. But regardless, I would just say attacks made beyond the range of X number of feet have disadvantage. I think would be a cleaner way of writing all that.
Or even, I mean, do you really need that little aspect, right? Honestly, I really loved this item, even just with that really nice flavor text at the beginning, and then you got double range and fire an extra beam. Like, that, even just in and of itself, is pretty cool to me. Like, I think that would make a very good item, even without the extra complexity of the attack roll, the next little attack roll part.
Yeah, I certainly agree with that. I think you could be fine as it is. But yeah, if you decide to go kind of maintain that route, I would definitely try and pare down that language to a very clear thing in feet. But I like the item. I also like the idea. It's a very simple idea, but I don't think I've seen it before, which is just you can do an extra Eldritch Blast when you Eldritch Blast, which I've seen that spell buffed in every conceivable way. But somehow
but not this way.
But somehow not that way. Yeah.
Congratulations, Frog. You've managed it. Against all odds.
But yeah, that's the Eldritch Sniper Rifle. And we have another one here from Frog called the Glitter Elemental. And this was a monster stat block, which this is another one. I think the Eldritch Sniper Rifle and the Glitter Elemental have this in common, which is that they're kind of goofy up front, but I think there's actually some really, really good design in the Glitter Elemental here. Jeremy, I don't know if you had the opportunity to give this one a read through yet, but it is...
Yeah, I checked it out a little bit when we were looking at when all the chatter was going on in the workshop. I was very surprised, interested. Well, I was surprised, interested that you gave it the immunity to radiant damage. I guess it makes sense, right? Fire elementals are immune to fire. Like, I suppose that like works.
Yeah, the immunity to radiant damage isn't necessarily 100% there for, but I can definitely see why you would have the inspiration for that, because they have their core feature here, which is this glitter glam, which is they essentially angle all of the glitter within them to reflect brightly on a person, blinding them, dealing radiant damage. So they are used to these bright sunlights. I like their glitter form. It plays on the glitter bomb recently, which is they can move through things, and then you make the creatures and spaces that they move through unable to be covered in illusions and unable to be invisible, which here's my thinking on the glitter elemental, Jeremy. This seems like this actually seems, even though I would still call it the glitter elemental, this seems like a construct to me.
It's interesting. It almost feels like if you were to use the Ring of Dumb Elementals, which is my favorite magical item in Dungeons and Dragons that I've ever created, it is a ring that turns any spell into an elemental. It almost feels like a fairy fire elemental, and I love that design, that concept. Actually, I think it's actually quite cool. Like Pete was saying earlier, you see glitter elemental, and it kind of go like, it's a goof, but like this is actually a really cool design to kind of tie into that. Fairy fire-esque, right? Cover in glitter.
Well, I picture like the glitter elemental being something made by like some kind of wizard or sorcerer or artificer for like a very specific purpose. Like, I know I'm going to be dealing with a threat that's invisible, so I'm creating this thing to like look out for them. And I just really like that kind of design. There's a couple of nice little details, and I think you have just the right touch. Like the liquid susceptibility makes a lot of sense. You can wash it away. I find you don't want to overdo it with the little extra features, but you want to do it a little bit. So I think this is in the sweet spot.
Yeah, and at the same time, I think the glitter glam works really well along the same way that the other elementals kind of similar features work, right? The fire elemental sets you on fire. The what does the water elemental even do? The water
Elemental like
drowns
drowns you inside of itself, I think.
Yeah. So I think this is a very cool. I think blinded is that's exactly the right direction for it. If I had one nitpicky comment, and I'll give you the nitpick, you don't put the word true neutral when you're doing a monster stat block, just neutral.
He's correct about this.
But otherwise, it's really cool.
Yeah, and you even like, again, like I'm just still really feeling this as a construct. I almost want it to just be like unaligned and to have no languages and to just, that's I guess that's my picking of nits. As I would like.
Yeah, but Pete, what if it's like an air elemental, right? That has been infused with this kind of glitter magic by an evil artificer. It's not a construct then; it's still an elemental. It's just a.
Then I would, if I read the lore and that's what it was, I would be into it. But then I'd want to see more air elemental-y stuff on it too.
Warlocks of Fashion would use it for sure.
I can certainly see it.
How is this?
Yeah, don't tell Jeremy that. Unless you are 100% prepared to battle. If you rely on invisibility, don't tell Jeremy this. Yeah, that's the glitter elemental. I really like this design.
I don't see how the glitter monster could be anything other than true chaotic. You know what, Bud? Maybe that's a good point. I love it. Moving along, we got our next, and thank you again, Frog, for sharing. This is a very well put together, like we were saying, and like clearly you definitely took the time and the effort to put together a really nice monster here. It'd be nice to see more of that flavor for it, but I love it both ways. The like origin stuff.
Frog was saying I thought that was noted in the workshop. I think maybe with regards to lore. So if there was lore written up for this that I may have
whoopsies,
then I apologize. But I will go back and check it out. But for now,
yeah. We've got some interesting revised ability score secondary traits by V-Bunny. So one thing that a lot of people don't really know is in the player's handbook, under the using ability score section of running the game, there's actually detail for every single ability score about like how you can use that ability score. So like under Arcana, it tells you, if you're looking for lore or knowledge about monsters from other planes of existence, that would be under Arcana. And it gives you like specific examples of ways you would use the ability score in the practice of actually running the game. And I think that's kind of what V-Bunny was going in here to revise and try and make some adjustments. V-Bunny, I see you're in the chat. While we're going through this, feel free to let us know what your like intention was and goal was behind making these changes, because I'm not. I'll be honest, I'm not the most well versed in the actual section of the player's handbook myself. It's been a long time.
Likewise, I was going to say, I haven't read. A lot of this is going to be interacting with the encumbrance rules and this kind of replacement for the current encumbrance system, and I haven't looked at that in a while. I like the idea of you tackling it, because Jeremy, just a quick sidebar, how do you feel about encumbrance? Not as it's written in 5e, but the concept of rigorously tracking how much weight that you have.
It's interesting because going back to like the very origins of the game, that was like the puzzle, right? Was how do I get this 10,000 copper out of the dead dragon's lair that we've just killed? Because if we leave now and we come back to get it, bandits will have taken it or something, so that was like almost the puzzle after completing the dungeon, is how do we get our loot back? And I feel like this ties into that really well. In that way, I like it a lot. In other circumstances, it's not. I think there's a point in every campaign where it just becomes tedious, and the dungeon master gives them a bag of holding, and we say it's gone. We don't worry about it. But
I kind of agree. I don't know. I've always really wanted to play a game that rigorously cares about encumbrance and hunger and all of the small day-to-day minutia, and get into that like kind of very nitty-gritty realism in D&D. But also, it's a lot of work, and I don't think the existing encumbrance system is good. And I hate having to know that a rapier is 2 versus 3 pounds. that particular aspect of it, I think, is poor. But I'm interested to see what direction V Money took it, regardless.
Yeah, it looks like what V Money was saying in the chat is the whole purpose of these changes was to give all of the ability scores an intrinsic benefit. Because right now, right, if you have a 13 versus 12 intelligence, there's absolutely no tangible difference between the two. A 13 versus 12 strength, there is a slight carrying capacity change if you really care about that kind of thing.
Jump distance is affected.
Yeah. But like, actually, I don't think it is. Oh, it might be. Yeah, no, it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Long jump distance specifically.
But yeah, it's interesting. So, I mean, I'm looking through this and I'm seeing the carrying capacity doesn't look like you've changed anything. I'm not sure what the adjustments were here.
So the original carrying capacity rules, Jeremy, that is, I believe they are strength by 15, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, there are two. There's multiple sets of rules actually in the player's handbook. There's strength by 5 and strength by 15. It's strength by 15 is actually variant encumbrance, but it's the most commonly used iteration in the rule.
Okay. So anyway, this says, so maybe it's further on that the change occurs. So we have strength multiplied by 15 is weight that you can carry, high enough that most characters usually don't have to worry about it. There's then 30 for your push, drag, or lift weight. And while pushing or dragging in excess of your carrying capacity, your speed drops to 5 feet. I believe that is also the standard there.
Yeah, I just don't know, looking at them side by side.
Okay.
I mean, it's weird that you have in excess of your... So I think the idea is you can't push more than your capacity, right?
No, you can push double your capacity.
Oh, I
while
see.
Pushing more than your capacity.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then size and strength, larger creatures can bear more weight, whereas tiny creatures can carry less. For each size category above medium, double the creature's carrying capacity and the amount it can push, drag, or lift. And for a tiny creature, have these weights. Fair enough. I believe that is also standard. And then this is maybe where we're breaking off. If you carry weight in excess of 5 times your strength score, you are encumbered, which means your speed drops by 10 feet. Is that just standard?
No, that's also, I believe, in there. Yeah.
Oh, that's the original. 10.
That is the variant encumbrance rule. I think that's these two that he's added here, the 10 and 15 times.
Okay, so these are the these are just like extra encumbered.
Yeah, I see.
Okay, so if you carry weight in excess of 10 times your strength score up to your maximum carrying capacity, you are instead heavily encumbered, which means your speed drops by 20 feet. And you have disadvantage on ability checks, attack rolls, and saving throws that use strength, dexterity, or constitution. 15 times your strength score, you are extremely over encumbered, which means your speed drops by 30 feet, and you automatically fail. Ability checks and strength throws that use strength, dexterity, or constitution have disadvantage on attack rolls. And then 20 times your strength score, you die as the weight falls upon you. That's
interesting because it says you can do up to 30 times your strength score in the push, lift, and drag.
I
say it is if you're carrying and not.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this would be a situation which you were just had that amount of weight dropped upon you. It might be, I don't think you could put in the rule set a thing that just says, like, if you have this much weight on you, you die, because that's definitely a point that will just come up. That's just a thing that will come up in a game at some point, and some poor person will be very sad about it. Not because it was, like, and when I say that, I don't mean, like, they'll be subjected to the rule and be mad that the rule exists, which is also true, but what I mean is it just... unfair situations will happen where, like, oh, well, the house kind of falls over and you're kind of stuck underneath it for a moment. It's meant to be a dramatic moment. And then they would, like, go in, and if this was a rule, they would look at this and be like, oh, wait, no, the house would be this heavy. Oh, you're dead, actually. Which, having that kind of quantified thing for a situation like that, I think is unhealthy for gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, I get where you were going here, because it's the 10, 15s, and the 20 times that were added here. But yeah, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure where this improves a ton of gameplay for me. You know, I just see this as a potential for like a player to like cheese with the reduced spell and be like, ha, your carrying capacities have, so you die, right? Like, or something weird to go on. Or it's like, right, like by these rules, if you carry an excess, you're 20 times your strength score. So the shadow attacks you and reduces your strength score to 3. You're dead. You've just died. You're crushed under your armor because of the shadow, right?
Yeah.
So I think like I get the intention here of there being more rigorous conditions, and I even agree with a lot of this, right? Disadvantage on ability checks when you're encumbered. Like, these are things that I think a lot of dungeon masters would implement to a degree, especially when you're looking at the 10 or 15 times. If encumbered something that you really care about in your game, it's really that 20 times where it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think the 10 and 15 work if you want to drag out. I think the inherent problem with encumbered is that just even the base kind of property of it when you're encumbered, I think a lot of the times players get that kind of debuff, and then it's just like, oh, well, I'll just give out some of my things and spread it. It's more of like almost kind of like a gentle reminder, you're starting to carry too much, than it is like something that people would overcome. I just don't imagine a lot of players like going to that point where they would be this encumbered, but there's definitely situations where I think it could be cool, like if they have to transport large heavy objects.
And it's definitely a thing for like different games might use this differently. Like the reason this kind of stuff isn't in there already, because most people really don't want to worry about encumbrance. They want to run around and be heroes. That's why they even say on it, right? Like most people don't usually have to worry about it, right? But yeah. I guess
that's the strength one, and I see you have one for all the ability scores here. These ones are a little bit briefer, which is dexterity. Your move speed is equal to 2 times your dexterity score, rounded to the nearest 5 feet. For every size category above small, increase the speed by 10 feet. That is, I don't necessarily intrinsically dislike the idea. I mean, that would be a fundamental change to the way speed is done in 5th edition. And dexterity is already a pretty stacked ability score, so it's probably not the best idea to do that. But just barring that, if you wanted to tie dexterity to strength, I think the numbers also, because that would put you a potential, if you had a 20 dex at the start of the game, you could bump up to a 50-foot speed as a medium creature at the start, which is a little outrageous, plus racial bonuses.
Yeah, and I get what you're going for here with the dexterity visited. The thing is, I think if you're going to do this, there'd be a lot more changes you'd have to make to like people saying racial bonuses, right? In 5th edition D&D, the wood elf gets a +5 to its speed. It's like a special racial thing. I think if you're going to do something like this, that would maybe need to be a much more frequent consideration, right? Of like how speed really kicks in. And beyond that, I mean, I get your point, free money, of wanting to make all of the ability scores relevant on an individual point level, but I just don't think that's the way 5e is designed. You know, dexterity is already arguably the best ability score in the game for any character to have, because armor class and attack rolls and just so many things. The most common saving throw, besides maybe wisdom, but even then I think dexterity is more common.
Strength, con, and wisdom are all the kings.
So good.
I mean, just if you wanted to go in this direction in like a home game and you were looking into this, I mean, there's huge implications for how this would affect race balance, because many races are balanced around their speed. Just my own quickest thought about how to do this is to add the increase by 10 and actually keep it as it is and make it subtract by 5 if you're small. So that way, if you had I don't know, that's just like an okay-ish way. It still comes up a little bit light, but that's maybe a little bit closer to what you want.
Yeah,
that's Dex.
Constitution. interesting. It seems like you're going with you're affecting the overland travel rules, which is you can travel for 8 hours per day without taking a rest, and then for every hour after you have forced march, and you have to make a Constitution saving throw at the end of each hour, where the DC is 10 plus the number of hours over 8 hours, or you'll get exhaustion. So I see that that's kind of what you were going for here, and I mean, the dexterity visit is interesting and kind of funky. This one, I think this is just very bad. Just because this is going to just punish the weakest link in the party so hard, where everyone else in the party, right, can travel the regular overland travel distance, and then the weakest link just gets screwed having to roll these con saves that they're already bad at. Yeah, this just seems really dangerous to me. I don't see this as positive in any way. Frankly, I get where you were going for, but
yeah, I'm tending to agree. Also, I'm sorry to also say this about the intelligence thing here, but I don't think you can do, again, like, this is another way to put skills onto intelligence would require like a rebalancing of classes that are based around skills.
Yeah.
For example, that would really gut the bard inherently, where their thing is they get to pick all these skills and they get expertises of them, but they want to max charisma. It would make it so that they would have to, like, there's just a lot of like inherent balancing in the game and skills that you couldn't fundamentally change at a level like that without like redesigning classes.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say that the Constitution Revisited doesn't make sense. This makes perfect sense. I just don't think it. Yeah.
I just think the issue isn't like, does it, because yeah, I agree, it definitely makes sense. I just think it wouldn't necessarily be fun for the player that has the lowest constitution, and that the whole party has to either force to press on or be frustrated with. Like, wisdom is an interesting one.
Wisdom.
You roll initiative.
That actually I think makes sense. Like, weirdly enough.
Yeah, actually, this I like. At the beginning of every comment, you roll initiative by making a wisdom check. Initiative determine. Yeah, just changing initiative to wisdom instead of.
Even both, like one or the other. Roll one. You know, you can choose. Pick. Done.
Yeah, like, I mean, I would be even into like Dex into wisdom if we were gonna go like a multi-choice thing, but like for sure, wisdom makes sense. I mean, like changing initiative to ability to perceive and like instantly recognize and understand your environment from like a sensory standpoint, that tracks both logically, like flavor-wise, and also I love the idea of taking a thing away from Dex.
Yeah, and it's also the idea with Wisdom Revisited with this using wisdom for initiative. I think that's definitely meant to be a broader choice, right? This isn't like you have to do this. It's just adding an interesting, different take conceptually on it. So I like that quite a bit.
And then this charisma thing, this also I don't think works. You have a proficiency in a number of languages equal to your charisma modifier. For one thing, a 0 charisma modifier, you know no languages. It's just that can't be.
Well, I think that he was saying that these things are on top of your normal, like what you would get from your backgrounds and grades and stuff.
Oh, so presumably the skill thing would be you would get a bunch of skills on top of your class?
I still don't super dig that, frankly, for the same reason Pete was saying. That's kind of the bard's thing, is I'm good at less skills.
I like
or
that.
The rogue, even.
But I like that more than I thought it was just you just have that many.
Yeah.
But, okay, that makes a little bit more sense, actually. And then, okay, so I can just think what you're saying here, intelligence modifier and charisma below 0, you lose skills and languages that you would normally have based on.
When your modifier skill below 0?
I think he means not score modifier.
Oh, modifier. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Bad Jeremy.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess along that same argument, I don't like losing languages. Also, number of languages known doesn't really scream charisma to me.
That's also true. That's a good point. Languages seems like very much an intelligence thing to me.
But yeah, this is a very interesting kind of thought exercise here.
Yeah.
Because it just makes you consider, like, especially seeing stuff like the Wisdom Initiative. Like, you see that and you think, huh.
Yeah. I might take a stab at trying to make an encumbrance rule that I like, because I'm very interested in playing with playing in that space. But
thank you, buddy. There's a very interesting
kind of
thought exercise. Let's jump on to our is this our final community?
This is our final community one. We're going to do our Lich's Lair after this. But this was the Actually Disarming Wand by Frosty Pirate. The title was part of a series of 3 disarming wands. I believe there was the disarming one, which cut off arms, and then there was the I believe it was the very disarming wand, which gave you a disarming smile. That gave you advantage on charisma checks, but I particularly liked the mechanics on this one, so I went with the Actually Disarming Wand from Frosty Pirate, which is, while holding this wand, you can use an action to expend one of its charges to force an enemy creature within 30 feet to make a DC 14 strength saving throw. On a fail, the creature loses grip on any one item it's holding, and the item gets tossed 5 feet in the direction of your choosing. On success, nothing happens. The wand has 5 charges and recharges 1d4 plus 1 charges at each day at dawn. You liked the exact same thing I liked, it sounds like, Jeremy.
Yeah, it's the tossed 5 feet in the direction of your choosing. That's what makes this, I think,
go from just you disarm it, and now it's just like a fun toy to use, because you get to make a choice every time you use it. Yeah, I don't even really have that much else to say about this. I just wanted to point out exactly what you latched onto, Jeremy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very neat little item. I like it a lot. I'd probably use this, actually, in a game I'd run. I might use this in a game I run. We'll see.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I made... I don't know if I would do the triumvirate of your very disarming wand and your disarming wand and then the actually disarming wand. I also
like the disarming wand.
Well, the disarming wand takes away the arms, and then the very disarming wand gives you a charming smile, and then the actually disarming wand actually disarms. I don't know. I just really love the idea of it. It's so many creative uses, like the fun of someone standing near an edge and then being like, you take your sword and you throw it over the side. It's the most obvious good use case, but I can think of
throw it into the fire. I think. Whoa.
Like, I imagine like a 3-person combat. Throw it 5 feet to your right, next to the big monster that both of us are fighting while we're fighting each other. Like, there's so many cool things that I could imagine it just working out that you could do with this. So anyway, creative mechanic.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Thank you again for sharing, Frosty. Pete, should we jump into our next segment of the evening?